Fusion for Product Design is a collection of extensions available within Fusion. This includes the Manage extension, the Design extension, and the Simulate extension on top of a license of Fusion. This allows for simplification of the licensing model, meaning you don't have to go and purchase individual extensions or use credits to go and access functionality of each of the individual extensions, and becomes a lot more cost effective in the long run. This allows a workflow that encompasses the entire product design aspect of your workflow within Fusion. And in this video, I'll just take us through a few different steps and a workflow within the various extensions that start to tie all of the functionality together in a succinct way. As before, the extensions can be found within the Extensions Manager, whereby we have the Design, Manage, and Simulation as part of the Fusion for Product Design. In this case, we might have a situation whereby we have produced a product, we've assembled the components together and have started manufacturing and assembling these components. It might have even gotten all the way out to production, full-on production, and sent off to clients, or we might still be in a testing phase where we start to ascertain and start to determine that there might be a bit of an issue within the componentry itself, potentially the way the items fit together, or any other potential changes need to occur against the design itself. In this case, for instance, we might see that the switch itself, which controls various aspects of our product, it might be the height, it might be anything within the component itself. It might also be that the leg itself can't sustain the weight once everything has been assembled correctly. You might determine this even before it's gone through any form of release process, but the same workflow applies throughout. So if I were to go and take a quick look then, for instance, at the control switch itself, and look at in the simulation environment to test this, that in certain aspects, a certain amount of weight that's applied to the switch itself on its own, but eventually, if it were in its assembly environment, would lead to certain failures. So in this case, at a 2 mil thickness, we can determine that the component itself struggles to reach the required safety factor. In this case, it's almost at 50% of the safety factor itself. So we might determine that in order to get this product working correctly and adjusted correctly, we need to be able to thicken it and strengthen it up, whether it be adding a few ribs in there or whether it be actually just thickening the component itself. In that case, we could go through to the design environment, go to in our case, plastic, because we are making use of a plastic component. This doesn't have to be plastic for this particular instance. But in this case, again, because we're using the plastic componentry, we're making use of the functionality that exists in that. And a simple fix for this particular one, if the environment is ripe for it, or whether we can, within the design itself, make this particular adjustment, we've got the ability to then go and just change the rule itself, the underlying rule of the component, and say that rather than using a 2 mil thickness on here, we might go ahead and say that the thickness of the compart itself needs to be 2.5 millimeters. As soon as I hit save on here now, we should see that all of the parameters that are driven by that particular rule set within the design extension will then go ahead and adjust. It might also be the fact that you need to go and change some features, changing lip thicknesses, snap fits, any of those items that might need adjustment throughout. Once we then go ahead and simulate this now again, if we go back into our simulation environment and confirm the changes, I have got one already preloaded over here with a 2 mil thickness. We can then see that in actuality that adjustment that I've made there, that 2.5 mil thickness, has brought it above the safety factor. Again, if I wanted it well above that, maybe at 3 times the safety factor or more, we'd then potentially go and strengthen it up with ribs or any of the other features that might need to be occurred and added rather into the component itself. Once we have determined that we're happy with that product, we could then go ahead and save it and then start to push it through the approval process once more using our management process. So if I were to go ahead and save this, whether I'm managing the individual product itself and pushing it through a life cycle, or whether I'm going ahead and pushing this to the top level assembly, chances are that a change in a lower level component would then mean that the top level component also needs adjusting as well. The top level assembly needs adjusting as well. At this point in time, we could then go through the process of then actually going ahead and pushing this through with a change order. So within our Manage tab, we then have the ability to release this now with a change order to ensure that anybody who needs to approve this can do so with this. I can go and take my part that already has an item number and create a change order for this particular component. This will then go and ask me to add some change order information on here as to the title of the change order itself. And we could go and say that this was the switch thickening. I could go and choose which attendees or which users need to approve this, which approvers need to be on board with this, whether we want just a single one or multiple. And then a potential reason for change, whether it be customer usability, documentation update, or anything else. In this case, we want to either have a quality issue or a safety issue, probably a quality issue on this particular one. And then any descriptions that might need to be added in here. We can then go and at this point, if we know who needs to review this, we could go and set the reviewers directly from inside this. For the sake of this demonstration, I'll just put myself down as well. As soon as I go ahead and save this, this will then allow anybody else that needs to be engaged with the conversation to then go and add into this as well. So I can at this point in time, if I wanted to choose which life cycle I want to go ahead and add this in. In this case, I want to go and revise production, and then I can go ahead and save this in there. So we can go and set multiple life cycles to occur if we wanted to, and we can have multiple stages to the life cycle as well, as we do in this case. Once that's now gone through, any stakeholders that need to can go and view this, either directly through Fusion using the process management options within the Manage tab, or directly from the web portal. This process management tab will then just take us straight to those. So if I were to go straight to change orders directly from inside of this, this will in fact open up a web page and allow me to go and view that particular component directly from there. And in this case, the actual change order itself. So whether it's myself that's reviewing this or someone else within the team, they can then go ahead and view the affected items, so they can see the part number or the item number against the individual component, which they can then click on if they needed to, and see the components themselves, see the assembly in this case if required. They can also see any due dates if they're required, or add due dates. We can then go straight to the approval workflow and ascertain whether this just needs to stay open, whether it's cancelled at this point, whether we need to go and assign modifications to this if this was triggered elsewhere and someone needed to go and engage in the work with it, whether this needs to go to a review process so I can fast track this to review, or whether I want to fast track it all the way to approval now that the changes have been made. Again, at any point in time, we can either go straight to the approved or add a few extra additional checks in at each of the stages of development. In this case, I will very quickly go and say I want to fast track this to approval, add any comments on here, and approve it from within. That will then go and close off the change order for me now that it has been approved, and the adjustments will then have been considered as part of the adjustment. We can now see from our change orders list over here all of the closed and approved jobs. From here, we can also from the web portal start to filter out any columns based on information remove closed, only see open, or vice versa, and change the order in which we see things as well. From the Home tab itself within the web portal, we can also then have a quick overview of the change orders based on the reason. So we have the initial releases, other documentation updates, and a few other categories to those. We can then also see the designs by their live states as well, and a few other options. This list is adjustable, so you can hide or show any other options from within this list as well. That's just a very quick overview of the different extensions that are within the product design or Fusion for product design. And hopefully that's been helpful. If you have any questions with regards to any of the steps, or would like to take a deeper look at how this can work within your company, please do get in contact with us. Otherwise, that's all I want to go through for today. Bye for now.